Bring on the abuse. It doesn't matter because, this is an important point. People think that what they say and do in regard to others, in relation to others, is a statement about those others. It is not. What we do and say in relation to others is a constant statement about ourselves. And what gets me passionate about this sometimes, not too often, there's other things to do, but like now, is not what they say about me or what they say about others. It's the fact that they can see some of what is happening in the world and the suffering and abuse that goes on as a result of this covert manipulation. And their only contribution can be abusing and trying to undermine those who are generally trying to do something about it. That is such a statement about the people that do it, a statement that almost beggars description. And one day, even in the body, if not in the body, then out of it, when they're a bit more expansive in their understanding, shall we say, they are going to have to look in the mirror symbolically and say, oh my God, what was I doing? They still have a chance of not having to do that if they stop being silly now and start making a contribution to making this world a better place than spending their entire spare time, it seems. And my goodness me, what it must be doing to their souls, to their vibrational state, to spend so much of their spare time doing nothing more than trying to abuse and undermine those who are trying to make a contribution to making the world a more pleasant, decent, just place. What we're doing now, Freeman, of course, as we move along this journey, is we can provide as much evidence as possible, and there is an enormous amount of evidence that says, hey, we need to know more about the moon here because there's so many anomalies. But we in so many areas now, we're moving into levels of research that really are about intuition and looking at the way the language of life, synchronicity, talks to us and points us, says to us in so many different ways and expressions, look at this, because we're going into deep levels of the rabbit hole now, and we're going to go deeper and deeper into them. This is so powerful and so encouraging. Such a great time to be alive in this reality. What is happening is more and more people on an exponential curve are starting to wake up. They're starting to open their mind. A closed mind keeps you in a low vibrational state. It holds you in the moon matrix, as I call it. When you open your mind, you start to vibrate faster because you're accessing a higher level of awareness, therefore a higher level of vibration. And what the wake up really is, we're waking up and we're going beyond the walls of this hacked matrix. And when we do that, we can suddenly be aware of things and see things and perceive things at a much more expansive level than we could before. And people say, why didn't I see it before? Why? Because you're in a different state of consciousness now, and you can see what you couldn't see before in another state of consciousness. But you know what kind of I find desperately sad, shall we say? Yes. I can understand the public who've not researched this and not had access to any of this information, not doing anything about it. I can understand them dismissing people like you, me, and many others. And I can understand them even ridiculing us. But what really turns my stomach, there's no other phrase for it, is those people who have, often through no efforts of their own, come into access some understanding of what's happening in the world and the horrors that are going on, the sacrifice of children, the abuse of children, the hunger and suffering that is only there because it's manipulated to be, the plans for a Orwellian global state that would make George Orwell wince, the way children are being taken away by the state from their families as part of the process of the state taking over control of all children. All these things, manipulated wars, the mass slaughter in Iraq and Afghanistan, etc. All these things are going on. These people have some awareness, at least, in what passes for their minds, that this is being coldly calculated and manipulated. And their reaction to this is not to do anything about it, because they overwhelmingly haven't got the guts to do that. Instead, it's to attack and abuse those who do have the guts. And even I'm sure I've rarely come across a genuine researcher that's not actually experienced this. And also, in some cases, people who try to parasite off their efforts financially and through other means. That's your contribution to what's going on in the world. I mean, compared with the mass of the public who don't know, therefore do nothing because they don't know, they're not aware of what's going on, that is so much more extreme than that. When you do have an idea of what's going on and your only contribution is to abuse, attack, or parasite off those who are trying to do something about it. It's about time someone said that, because I see people. There are some wonderful people on the forums, and there's some wonderful research done, not least on my own. I mean, they do a fantastic amount of research on that forum, and there are many other forums that do the same. But there are enormous numbers of people who just go on these forums every night, and they just abuse and try to undermine and try to dilute the effectiveness of people who've given their lives to this. And it's disgusting and it's pathetic, and they need to look the people in the eye, the children and all these others who are suffering daily by the minute from this system through lack of exposure. They need to look at those people in the eye and justify their disgraceful, appalling behavior to those people. And I wish them well, because I wouldn't like to try.
Right. And that is one of the sad truths of the internet, is that it is very one-dimensional, and you're anonymous, and you don't have to face that person or feel their emotions or any of the things that we would normally do in face-to-face interactions. You can come out and just be as much of an ass as you want. And no one, there's no one there to look you in the eye.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Freeman, I've been abused since 1990, when I was the figure of enormous, probably almost unprecedented levels of ridicule in Britain, because I was a well-known television presenter when I started coming out with loads of stuff that you wouldn't hear on the BBC. So I'm used to it. I don't even need a thick skin anymore, because it doesn't even touch the sides. It just goes straight through and out the other side and doesn't kind of register. But I'm not saying it for that reason. I mean, and that's not, as I say, because what they say about me, it's what they say about so many people who are doing this. And unless you've done it, unless you've been on this journey for any length of time, people will not realize the emotional energy that it takes and you expend. When you come across constantly these horrors and meet people who've been subjected to these horrors, and they tell you their stories, and they're horrific, and it's a real emotional challenge to process this stuff without being deeply, deeply affected by it.
It's very true. I went through the same thing, David, when I published the whole article on Anna Nicole Brittany and mind control. And next thing I knew, I had people left and right coming to me, people I would have never suspected, telling me about the ritual abuse and even satanic rituals that they had been through. And I had no idea. But definitely the study itself frightened me to tears. I was having a hard time coping with what I had researched and what I had dealt with. And I applaud you for all that you have done.
Well, the thing is that you see the people under anonymous names on websites, etc., they're always detached from it. It's just like an add-on to their lives. It's like a hobby almost. And if they actually came face to face with some of the people and heard what they've gone through, the last thing they would do, if they have an ounce of decency, would be continue to try to undermine those who are trying to expose what these people have gone through, and crucially, the control system that perpetuates it generation after generation.
Absolutely.